Hello everyone, welcome back. So now we're going to start with Module 3, as you can see, is Playwrights. So playwrights are the people who write the plays. It's pretty much right there in the name, spelled a little bit differently than what you would expect. But our objectives for this module are to understand the implications of the words playwright and playwriting, differentiate the dramatic dialogue from ordinary language, discuss the playwright and the playwright's cultural position, explain the playwright's relationship to dramatic and theatrical conventions with audiences and with the rehearsal process. Um, just to say that without playwrights, we don't have a medium of theater. Theater doesn't exist without somebody writing the material, and that's what playwrights do. As you can see here, write in playwright means maker. You can have a wheelwright, a cartwright, they make wheels, they make carts. So it's a very ancient and old profession, skill, playwriting. Remember, there wasn't television and film forever, so plays were the original, the OG. Playwrights create and organize actions using human-like beings or characters to do so, right? So it's a little bit different than prose or fiction, even nonfiction narratives and novels. Playwrights create characters to tell the stories. They don't use pictures like movies can. You have a long shot of a car driving down the street to tell some kind of story. What you have are actors on stage telling the story with a set. They set words on paper but are not like a novelist or a poet, as I just said, and playwrights try to reflect recognizable human behavior and how their characters talk. Plays are different than prose. This is prose. In the morning I walked down the boulevard for a coffee and brioche. It was a fine morning. The horse chestnut trees in the Luxembourg gardens were in bloom. There was the pleasant early morning feeling of a hot day. I read the paper with a coffee and then smoked a cigarette. The flower women were coming up from the market and arranging their daily stock. Students went by, going up to the law school or down to the Sorbonne. The boulevard was busy with trams and people going to work. Now this is Hemingway. It's writing the scene and you can see it in your mind. Playwrights wouldn't write this necessarily, right? They would have to show all these things in their set. Dramatic dialogue forwards plot and reveals character. All the playwrights do is write dialogue. All playwrights do is write dialogue, dramatic dialogue. Characters tell the story and move it forward with the words that they say. Plot, something you've probably heard of in your English classes, is the product of all the other elements in the play. Plot is the story that's happening. And then character is a product of everything the character in the play says and does. Playwrights write words for actors to say and for audiences to hear. Again, playwrights just write dialogue or words. That's all that they do. The language must be more active, more intense, and more selective than everyday speech or novels. That's how dramatic dialogue is different from everyday speech. Dramatic dialogue is within a structure of a story, and everything that is said propels the story forward or the characters forward to the end. Something changes, they change, the story changes, but it's through their dialogue. We're not so active as that in our real lives most of the time. Sometimes we just talk about football or gas prices or whatever it is that have nothing to do with kind of any endpoint in our lives other than just a conversation. Plays, those don't really exist. Playwrights also write non-words. They write silences, gestures, rhythms, and visual images. Now let's go to the source of these plays. So the source of plays, the genesis of a play could be anything. An idea, an overheard conversation, a need to cry out against injustice. That's a big one in playwriting. Advocacy for injustices, an urge to break out of the self, to tell a story about themselves. Process of starting to put it on page. So playwrights have infinitely different processes, as any kind of creative art or any job that anybody has. Everybody's process of doing that job is going to be a little bit different. Some work in isolation by themselves. Some work with actors. They'll write something, have actors say it to each other to see if they like how it sounds. They'll try new scenes, improvise around ideas. And some work with a director and a producer and create a project, right? So you're working with a director to direct the actors around to kind of steer it in a direction along with the playwright. Most plays are written by individuals, single people. Tennessee Williams, Tony Kushner, Tom Stoppard, Paula Vogel. These are all just people that write plays by themselves. But we do have some groups that write plays as well. We have teams like George Kaufman, Moss Hart, that was back in the early 20th century. We have collective groups. Bertolt Brecht worked with a lot of different actors to write his plays. The Tectonic Theater Project is one by Moises Kaufman, who work in workshop plays together, and Elevator Repair Service. Those last two are in New York City, where they collaborate together to write the plays. Some playwrights come to writing for specific social awareness. That's become very prominent here in the 21st century. Not as much entertainment, but more so something to a comment, something to learn about social awareness. Tony Kushner, Angels in America, one of the most known ones. It's one of the most outstanding plays of the 20th century. Told the story of AIDS epidemic in America. The play was a penetrating look at the United States at the end of the 20th century. It was funny and unsettling, is still. Put the theater back at the center of culture for a little while. Theater has an immediacy that things like mediums like television and film don't have. So Tony was able to write that play contemporaneously with this epidemic happening in America and being able to say something about it immediately, whereas if you're doing television or film, it takes a while to edit things. Watch this video, and we'll go to the next part.